He was the voice of a generation. Chester Charles Bennington, born March 20th, 1976, in Phoenix, Arizona, rose from personal trauma and substance abuse to become the frontman of one of the most successful rock bands ever. His soaring vocals propelled Linkin Park from small clubs to global arenas. Then, on July 20th, 2017, on what would have been his friend Chris Cornell's 53rd birthday, Chester committed suicide at the age of 41. His death shook the music world. Today, we explore his early years, his struggles, the rise of Linkin Park, his impact on countless fans, and the circumstances leading to that heartbreaking night. Chester's youth was marred by trauma. Born to a nurse mother and a father who worked as a police detective, young Chester endured years of abuse at the hands of an older friend. This, compounded by his parents' divorce when he was just 11, deeply affected him. Music and poetry became his outlets, but so did early substance use. By age 11, he was already experimenting with drugs and alcohol as a way to cope with the pain. His teenage years saw escalating struggles. He felt like an outcast, often bullied, small in stature, and carrying a burden of secrets he rarely shared. But within this storm, he discovered his first true love, music. He found comfort in bands like Depeche Mode and Stone Temple Pilots, and he began dreaming of a life beyond Phoenix, one where his voice could finally be heard. In his teens and early 20s, Chester performed in local Phoenix bands like Grey Daze. These years shaped his craft and gave him his first taste of recording and performing live. Years later, he formed Dead by Sunrise, a side project that allowed him to explore darker, moodier music that didn't quite fit Linkin Park's sound. For Chester, these projects weren't just music, they were therapy, opportunities to pour his demons into art. During this time, however, his battles with substance abuse deepened. A divorce in the mid-2000s left him spiraling, and he entered rehab to confront addictions that had consumed much of his young adult life. He later admitted that even as a rock star, he often drank himself into isolation and felt like life had lost its meaning. Thoughts of suicide haunted him long before the world knew his name. Everything changed in 1999 when Chester auditioned for a California-based band called Zero. His audition tape immediately set him apart. His raw vocal power and versatility electrified the group. Soon after, the band became Linkin Park. Their debut album, Hybrid Theory, dropped in 2000, and the world would never be the same. With Chester's piercing screams and delicate melodies blending with Mike Shinoda's rapping, the album redefined what rock could be. It became one of the best-selling debut albums of all time, with hits like Crawling, One Step Closer, and In the End, turning the band into global superstars. Chester's voice was unlike anything listeners had heard, able to shift from a whisper to a roar within a single line. Fans connected deeply with his honesty, his vulnerability, and the way he articulated pain they couldn't put into words themselves. The band followed up with Meteora, Minutes to Midnight, A Thousand Suns, Living Things, and ultimately One More Light in 2017. Each album carried Chester's unmistakable imprint, raw emotion, soaring intensity, and lyrical confessions that bled from his own life experiences. Despite massive success, Chester's demons never truly left. He was open about his struggles with depression, addiction, and the long-lasting scars of childhood trauma. One of his closest friends was fellow rock icon Chris Cornell. The two bonded over shared battles and mutual respect. When Chris died by suicide in May 2017, Chester was devastated. He performed at Cornell's funeral, struggling through a tearful rendition of Hallelujah. It was clear the loss cut him deeply. In interviews leading up to his own death, Chester spoke candidly about his mental health. He described his battle with alcoholism as an hour-by-hour fight, admitting that some days he felt strong while others left him barely hanging on. The release of One More Light just months before his passing revealed an even more vulnerable side of Chester. The songs explored themes of mortality, loss, and the fleeting nature of life. Some critics dismissed the album's softer direction, but for Chester, it was a personal statement. his most honest work yet. On the morning of July 20th, 2017, Chester was found dead in his home in Palos Verdes Estates, California. He was just 41 years old. The news devastated fans and musicians around the globe. The fact that it happened on Chris Cornell's birthday only amplified the tragedy. Many believed the loss of his friend weighed heavily on him in his final days. There was no note, just silence where his voice once was. The world had lost not only a rock star, but a man who had spent his life battling his inner darkness while giving hope to others through his art. Within hours, the music world was in mourning. Fans flooded social media with messages of heartbreak and gratitude. Hashtags like #RIP Chester and #Make Chester Proud trended worldwide. His bandmates released an open letter to Chester, describing their love for him and acknowledging the deep void his absence left behind. They praised his courage in showing his struggles so openly, reminding the world that his music had brought millions together. Tributes poured in from celebrities and fellow musicians. Rihanna called him a vocal beast. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson sent condolences to his family. Jared Leto, who had toured with Chester, gave an emotional tribute at the MTV Video Music Awards, calling him both fierce and delicate, and urging those struggling with depression to seek help. Fans around the world shared deeply personal stories of how Chester's music had saved them. Many admitted they had once stood on the edge of giving up, but Chester's voice gave them strength. Now, they felt the heavy irony. If the man who gave them hope couldn't hold on, what did that mean for them? But instead of despair, many chose to carry his legacy forward, turning their grief into movements for mental health awareness and suicide prevention. Just 3 months after his death, Linkin Park hosted an emotional tribute concert titled Celebrate Life. The event brought together countless musicians to honor Chester's life and music. The show was live-streamed to millions, raising money for the One More Light Fund, which supports mental health programs in his name. It was a cathartic moment, not just for his bandmates, but for fans everywhere. It proved that Chester's spirit lived on in every lyric, every scream, and every tear shed that night. Chester Bennington's legacy is more than just platinum records or sold-out arenas. His voice carried the weight of real pain, and that authenticity resonated with millions who felt unseen and unheard. He showed that it was okay for men to be vulnerable, that anger and sadness could coexist with love and beauty, that music could be a lifeline. Artists across genres credit Chester as an influence. Fans across generations say his songs saved their lives. His story remains a stark reminder that even those who seem strong on the outside may be fighting invisible battles within. Nearly a decade after his passing, his music continues to inspire. Fans still gather on anniversaries to celebrate him, share artwork, and tell stories about how he changed their lives. His old bandmates continue to honor him, though some songs, like One More Light, remain too painful for them to perform. Chester's voice was more than sound. It was a mirror of the human experience, fragile, fierce, broken, and beautiful. Chester Bennington's life was a mix of triumph and tragedy. He rose from unimaginable trauma to become a global icon. He gave the world music that transcended genres, emotions that cut straight to the heart, and a reminder that vulnerability can be powerful. His death left a wound in the music world, but his legacy lives on in the millions he touched. Chester taught us that even in the darkest moments, there is a light. And sometimes, even if that light goes out too soon, its glow continues to guide others. Thank you, Chester. Your music helped us face our pain, and for that, you will never be forgotten.